And we are back with the University of Miami preview episode from the Pink Seats podcast. I'm producer Keith. With me on tonight's show, Matt McGavic and Vince Lococo. We're going to talk about this sellout game for this upcoming weekend. We're going to talk about the new helmet that just dropped. We're going to talk about Miami, what they like to do, who are their star players. We've got predictions and whatever else falls into our laps while we run this crazy train. Let's get this intro going. One of the things the team can't directly control, the fans. We got to sell out. We got to make this a hostile place to play. Hello and welcome to another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast here on the State of Louisville Podcast Network. With me tonight, as always, Matt McGavic and the beautiful, the Italian, the Yankee fan, Vince Lococo.
Oh, yeah, boo all you want. We're up 2-0 right now. I know Rocco's loving that, being a Guardians fan.
Oh, man, and there goes any shot of any media.
Rocco knows I love him. I got to throw a Yankees jab in there. It wouldn't be playoff baseball if I didn't. It's all love, though.
Yeah. So, fellas, we got a really, really exciting week lined up. We got a sellout. First one of the season.
Woo! Hey, go us.
Finally packing the barn. Matt, Vince, any thoughts on us finally getting one, especially for a noon game?
Yeah, the noon game part, it's going to be interesting. It's also going to be interesting because it pretty much is almost confirmed that it's going to be a blackout. So having a blackout in the middle of the day, I mean, it should be like in the 70s.
You've never blacked out in the middle of the day?
Yeah, well,
we've heard stories, Matt.
Yeah. Well, like doing a blackout when it's 73 degrees outside is a lot better than doing it when it's like 90. So at least it's better there. But yeah, seeing a blackout in the middle of the day is still kind of weird. But based on what we saw out of the helmets that were just teased, I think the rest of the uniform is going to look really good too.
Personally, I love the full field. I mean, I love the full stands. I love, it's always like you always mentioned, Keith, it's always more fun to have a realistic football environment and everything. So hopefully we can bring it a little bit more this week with the fuller crowd. You definitely feel it on the field. I mean, you can tell from experience being, that 2019 Notre Dame game, for example, that was, I mean, you could barely have a conversation with somebody on the sidelines in comparison to any game you want to pick in 2018 was, night and day.
I mean, hell, even the Notre Dame last year, like the atmosphere when we actually pack the barn is fantastic. So now, preface, the tweet, y'all know the ones, wasn't me, but I've been hard on the fan base as well. I'll put my hand up on that. And the reason I do is because I see what we have the potential to be. When we have 58, 59, 60,000 people in this stadium, that place is freaking rocking and can get up there with the best of them. And I just want it to happen more often, but thrilled to see it happen. I was a bit worried after the stumble at Notre Dame and then the stumble at SMU. And then when we had to fight for our lives against Virginia, I was worried. The resale market was still looking a little bit hot after that Virginia game, but the city came through. We're going to pack the barn, and I'm excited about it. Now, Matt, you mentioned the possibility of a blackout, and we got a little bit of a preview of the helmets tonight. I have thoughts. I think they're going to be contrasting.
Get your old man thoughts out. Get your old man thoughts out. Go ahead.
Get off our lawn.
Oh, you young whippersnappers.
Well, the thing is, like, I don't mind script. But you got to go script all the way through. And if the back bumper and the front bumper and the number plating on the helmet is any indication, I'm guessing it's going to be the Ville uniforms that we always wear when we wear a black helmet and black pants. And we're going to have 3 different contrasting fonts on the uniform again between the script, the Ville, and then like the French L that we always do on the pants. So it's like, I would like one consistent font scheme for a complete uniform set.
I agree. Keith. I give you shit, but I agree. I would love to have a consistent. I mean, like cards in cursive across the front would look so pretty, or even Louisville in cursive across the front would look very pretty. That would look great. But I'm not a uniform designer. It's always nice to see Ed's hands getting in there and designing the helmet.
I'm just going to piss and moan until we get the Murder Birds back.
Oh my god! Nothing is worse than that. No,
I would take the Murder Birds over the script just because we're trying something different and futuristic. We're not just clashing 3 different things together. Like it was one aesthetic image. It was a bad image, but it was one consistent image.
See, whenever you all were texting in the group message, and Jacob sent the Western Kentucky GIF, I was like, oh man, did we really do like the yellow face mask with the with like, because they just did the big red eyes? I was like, oh man, did we really just do the yellow beak? And I was relieved to see Black Helmet with the red face mask. Actually,
give it 2 years, Vince, and I would not be shocked if we have a white helmet, angry Louis eyes, and like a yellow or a gold face mask.
Hey, the day we do yellow face mask is the day I go on.
Or a red helmet
face mask personally. No, Matt, no yellow.
If it's executed well, I'll at least hear the conversation. Otherwise,
oh my god.
Yeah,
I'll hear the conversation, but I mean, I have every right to give you the reasons why it'll look ugly.
So the most frustrating thing, and you mentioned the Western Kentucky GIF. This is like the 3rd thing that we've either copied or been strongly inspired by for Western Kentucky. Like black minimalist end zones, we get black minimalist end zones. And now, granted,
it too, though. We went more heavy. App State was all black, heavy black, and if you paid attention, the years with SAT, we always wore heavy black.
Yeah, and the thing that's getting mixed up, like, I'm not clamoring for the Chrome Dome SAT uniforms back. I hated those too. Like, our base uniform looks so good. It's so unique. It's just so us. I don't know why we stray from it. Like,
I would like to wear all red on a day that's not senior day.
I just don't like red helmets. Let me rephrase. I don't like red helmet with a red uniform. Like, give me a white top with red pants, red helmet. I can rock with that.
Oh, my favorite is chrome red, black jersey, red pants.
Oh, the cherry red tops. Those were nice. Those were nice.
Not a fan of the chrome domes, but you all didn't come.
Keith, how about that?
I mean, that's been evident for a while. You all didn't come here for fashion talk. You all came here for football. So, you know where else you all can get football? Our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Football is back, and you all can get in and get into the game. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year, making picks on Underdog. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head on over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up with promo code PINKSEATS, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code PINKSEATS to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Thanks, Underdog Fantasy.
I really want to know, if we have listeners in Arizona and New York. So if you're from Arizona and New York, just go ahead.
Get in the comments.
Go ahead and get the comments and drop that in there.
Yeah, drop where you're from. Let's hear it.
Unless you're a Mets fan, and then you can stay. You can stay over there.
Isn't Arizona Cardinals head coach a Louisville alum?
John Gannon, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, get in these comments, coach. Come on. But yeah, I'm excited to look at the Underdog lines when they go up, just because I'm really curious about what some of the numbers are going to be for the Miami Louisville game, because I have some thoughts about how things are going to go. But before we get into that, and before we try to make our projections and predict the future, there's one thing that I definitely predict will happen on this episode. It's Matt Stats.
Hell yeah, brother. I'm here and I've got more stats. I don't know why I just started talking in this accent, but
the monster truck rally voice got you.
Hell yeah.
No, yeah, like it just put me in a whole different state of mind. I'm like, oh God, yeah, we're bringing in the heavy hitters today, brother.
I wish you would have ripped your shirt in half, Hulk Hogan.
No, I've got the company shirt today. I can't.
That is true. Can't do that. Those are limited. Those are limited right now.
Exactly.
This Saturday, your ticket pays for the full seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Oh my God. Okay.
Give me the Mad
Anyways,
Stats.
steering this train back on track. All right. So I think we all know at this point in time how loaded and talented Miami is. I mean, that's been a talking point ever since the summer when we started doing some of our preview type stuff and, talking about the season at large, yada, yada, yada. Well, up to the halfway point of the season, I mean, the talent's pretty obvious. I mean, just going by their overall team grade on Pro Football Focus, which is a 95.9, they are the fourth highest graded team in the FBS. And pop quiz, see if you can name the three in front of Miami.
Just overall? Texas? Overall.
Nope.
Clemson?
Nope.
I'm just trying to think of teams that just
on the same conference?
Curb stomped.
Two of them are in the same conference.
Georgia,
one of them
Alabama.
is a G5.
Georgia, Alabama.
Boise.
Nope.
Army?
Army is number two. Number two.
Salute the troops.
Yeah, number 3 is Ohio State. Number 2 is Army. Number 1, the Fighting Courage Signettis.
Nine Windiana is a real threat this year, and low-key kind of thankful they bought out those games because Curt Cignetti is a problem.
I mean, yeah,
I refuse to be afraid of Indiana in football.
I'm not afraid of Indiana. I'm afraid of Curt Cignetti.
Yeah, good point. So, yeah, obviously very talented team, and the advanced stats kind of back that up. If there's any area of weakness for Miami, they've actually got one on each side of the ball. And on the offensive end, it's their run blocking, which is graded out as a 65.9, which is 52nd in the FBS. And when you kind of look at their rushing offense, just like their base stats as a whole, I mean, they're rushing for 170.5 yards, which is 60th in the nation, 9th in the ACC. So that's kind of on par. And when you look at their running back splits, I mean, Damian Martinez, he was a good pickup from Oregon State, but he's only got 300 yards. Jordan Lyle, he's got 239. Mark Fletcher, good back, 223. They're doing the thing that Miami has done pretty much the last few years under Cristobal, where it's like the very definition of running back by committee, and that like everyone's getting like equal runs, even though I think Damian Martinez should probably get the bulk of those carries, which he is, but he hasn't been as effective as kind of I thought he would be. But still, like part of that seems to be because Miami's run blocking is not that great. But I mean, when you got a guy like Kent Moore, you don't really need to run the ball that often. And anyways, on the other side of the line of scrimmage, their main weakness over there is tackling, and I'll have a whole bullet point on that here in a little bit. But long story short, for the time being, their tackling so far is graded out at a 61.2, which is 88th in the FBS. So that's not too great. And like I said, I've got more stats on that here in a bit. But first, I tried to find like super niche stats about Cam Ward just to tell how great he is. But I mean, like, you don't really need super like really hardcore niche stats to kind of tell the story. I mean, his base stats aside, and we're going to bring into that after this segment, but his 92.3 offensive grade of the 94 FBS quarterbacks with at least 150 dropbacks, number one. Like, there's no one else. He's number one. And where he really has kind of excelled has been kind of in on those deep throws. In fact, he's 21 of 37 for 700 yards and 8 touchdowns with no picks on passes that go at least 20-plus yards downfield. And that comes out to a 95.9 deep pass grade. And I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I think passes that qualify in, like, deep center were, like, some sort of absurd 99.8 grade, which is I've literally never seen a grade that high on PFF. And I've been using them for years now. Like that's insane. And of course, like we heard Braum earlier this week talk about, how important it's going to be to kind of, force him out of the pocket and try and make some of those off schedule throws, even though Cam Ward is pretty good at kind of making those making busted plays work and continuing things. And but there are some advanced stats to kind of back that up. When he's kept clean, he's completed 74.4% of his throws for 1,811 yards and 16 touchdowns to only 3 picks. Ruff's grades out at a 94.4. Pretty damn good. But when he's under pressure, he's only completes 53.7% of his throws for 408 yards and 4 touchdowns to 2 picks. So obviously not nearly as good. And even though Cam Ward is someone who does well when having to make some of those off-platform, off-schedule type throws, he's human. He's definitely shown that he isn't as effective when you have to put pressure on him. In fact, when he's under pressure, he's at a 64.5 grade, which it's slightly above average, but it's a hell of a lot worse than what he is when he's not pressured. As I said, that's a 94.4 grade when he's kept clean. And so that's enough on Cam Ward. I kind of mentioned how there's one massive issue for Miami with the tackling part, and kind of diving deeper into that. Of the 14 defenders for Miami with 100 defensive snaps logged, only 5 of them have a tackle grade above 70, and 6 of them have a grade under 60. In fact, the team as a whole has 50 missed tackles, and Miami's top 3 guys in terms of missed tackles, which is Francisco Malgoa, Michelle Powell, and Jaden Harris, they've combined for 20 of them. 3 guys have combined for 20 missed tackles.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Exactly. Put your hat to the ball. Wrap up.
Yeah, exactly. And one storyline as to why Miami has sort of struggled a little bit the last couple games and whatnot is not only just the missed tackle part, but their pass coverage has really went downhill over the last few weeks. In fact, looking at their pass coverage grades, it was an 84 against Florida, 86.1 against Florida A&M, and 81.2 against Ball State. Okay, those teams are pretty, relatively easy speaking compared to everyone else. Against USF, their pass coverage grade was a 61.2. Against Virginia Tech, it was a 65.8. Against Cal, it was a 60.4. So they are not nearly as effective. Now, that kind of comes with the territory of getting into ACC play. So you kind of expect a little bit of regression in various regards, but their ability to cover on the back end and in the secondary has I don't want to say taken an absolute nosedive, but it's certainly taken a massive downturn over the last few weeks.
Right.
And yeah, that is all the Matt stats for this week.
Oh wow. That was I don't think you could have done a better crack right there. You must have been holding on to that for the entire show.
Yeah.
It's not like the one from I can't remember last week or the week before where you nearly broke yourself with it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes, right.
Well, that's some good information, and you're kind of making me feel a bit more optimistic as we roll into this game. Before we talk about some prospective game planning and adjustments that you might see from this coaching staff, let's dive into the roster a little bit and just talk about some players to look out for. And Matt, you had a whole segment dedicated to him in Matt Stats. Cam Ward, starting quarterback for the Canes, legitimate Heisman Trophy contender. He's put up over 2,000 yards passing on the season already, if I am correct. Yeah, 2,200 plus. The kid can sling it. He is a bit susceptible to some of those oh shit interceptions where if you get pressure on him, he's running oh shit. Mm-hmm. So that's one area where you could possibly get him. And then I think one of his interceptions against Florida, he was just feeling himself. It was late.
It was like
a third quarter. Yeah. Oh, it was a full blown, just a heat check throw.
I would be doing that all the time if I was him. That's probably what separates people like Cam Ward from myself outside the football skill.
So we've gushed about Cam Ward. You talked about it. pressuring him is one of the key weaknesses to, if you're going to throw him off his game, that's how you're going to have to do it. But if Miami wants to try and throw a little tendency breaker action, they also have a nice two-headed monster at running back between Mark Fletcher and Damian Martinez. Damian Martinez, you may remember, a transfer from Oregon State, very high-profile running back in the portal in the spring. And Mark Fletcher was the 5-star running back, or I believe high 4-star, some had 5-star running back, who gave us fits last year. And I think he ran for $120 on us, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Like
Fletcher at least had like a century mark on Louisville last year, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's a stud. So any observations or any additional thoughts you want to give on the backfield, guys? I know listening to some Miami folks, they've been a bit disappointed in Damian Martinez's performance this year, at least in the running game.
No, I mean, I just kind of assumed that Martinez was going to have a really good year just because he run for close to 1,000 yards when he was at Oregon State or something like that. So, I mean, you put him behind arguably a much better offensive line than what he saw at Oregon State. Then, I mean, yeah, he ran for a combined 2,000 yards in his first 2 years at Oregon State. I mean, the dude can play, and yet halfway part of the season, and he's not even cracked 300 yards yet. Like, he's just a few yards shy away. I mean, he's got 5 touchdowns, so he's still seeing like some run in some red zone type situations. But yeah, it is a little bit shocking to see that Damian Martinez hasn't really been the factor that we expected. Now, again, like I said, Miami's doing the thing where they give multiple reps to multiple different guys. I'm pretty sure they've done it every year under Cristobal, and they've done it for a while now. I mean, Fletcher is still a factor. Jordan Lyle has seen some run. Obviously, Cam Ward gets involved in some of the rush game. Jay Allen is still there. I kind of forgot that he was with the Canes. Like, they've got a bevy of options at running back. So I guess that kind of plays into why Damian Martinez hasn't really stood out like we thought he might.
Well, he's done very well in the receiving game too. And also, like you mentioned, he's not over or like flirting with a ton of yards. He's still averaging 4.5 yards a carry. Like, it's not like he's a scrub stepping up back there, but he's got 10 receptions for 130 yards in the season as well. Like, he's a threat in the passing game. But yeah, a guy who I didn't even mention, Jordan Lyle, also having a very good season for the Canes. But between him and Fletcher and Martinez, let me correct myself, 3-headed monster running back that we're going to have to contend with as well. Now, that said, our run defense, personally, I think it's been pretty solid as long as the quarterback's not the one doing it on a read option.
Yeah. That's what makes me nervous is our guys being flat-footed and not, hitting their gaps properly. So we'll have to see on that. That's always the question. It seems to be this year.
We will take that into the strategy portion, but a couple other guys we want to highlight. We haven't even talked about their number one receiver, Xavier Restrepo. Like, baby needs his bottle. Cam Ward needs his Restrepo. Kid's fantastic. That's about all I've got to say on him. Matt, Vince, you got anything on him?
Yeah, I mean, he nearly took the game to overtime last year. I mean, Louisville ended up winning by a touchdown, but I mean, Restrepo ended up catching that Hail Mary to end the game, but he just happened to be a few yards short and got caught by Quincy Riley, thank God. But yeah, Restrepo, ball, dude. I was doing some research earlier. I'm pretty sure he's like close to the top or like within the top 5 of like various Miami receiving categories.
That's what I was going to say too. I was listening to Locked On Canes and they were talking about that.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Yeah, which if you're doing that in a place like Miami, which has seen some really damn good receivers come through, then you can play.
That's what I was thinking too. You're putting up numbers like that it seemed like the 80s and 90s and 2000s, they were just crapping out talent left and right.
I also, another Canes podcast I was listening to was talking like they're bullish on Restrepo, but fully expect him to pass Michael Irvin this year for the Canes receiving yards leader, which is insane to me.
That's nuts.
So Xavier Restrepo, another one. We're going to flip over to the defensive side of the ball. And for those of you who really focus on recruiting like me, I want you to cover your ears for this edge tandem. They're finally both going to be healthy at the same time. Former Louisville target out of high school, Ruben Hurricane Bane and Tyler Barron, both coming off the edge for Miami, both healthy in this game. Tyler Barron currently leading Miami in sacks with, I believe, 4.5 on the season. Miami as a whole, 20 sacks in 6 games. This is one of the things that scares me, just having 2 elite edge rushers like that, especially with the troubles that Louisville is currently facing at the tackle position. I'm curious to see how this coaching staff can wiggle out of this nightmare matchup.
I mean, just try and create a pocket, man, and just have something that Tyler can step up into. Hopefully, they'll, a lot like us, hopefully just rush right past him, Tyler seems to have a pretty good pocket awareness. So hopefully that's what I'm banking on, is him having, the ability to be able to step up in the pocket. But I'm right there with you, bro. It's going to be a tough ask.
If there was ever a game where you really have to incorporate like the West Coast offense or the run and shoot or something that employs a lot of like quick passes, this might be the game, because you've got Tyler Barron, their sack leader, Ruben Bain, who's the reigning ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year, going up against, I think, is it Rashid Miller who stepped in for Monroe Mills, or is it Trevante Sylvester? Either one, yeah, they're not going to be the starter. And then at the other spot at right tackle, we don't like to, call out players, but there have been times this season where Jonathan Mendoza has kind of struggled. And so you put him against either Bain or Barron. It might make for a long afternoon unless you kind of fix something with the blocking schemes.
They like to do that. That if you all pay attention, I know, Keith, you pay attention. Matt, I'm sure you see it too on the passing game. A lot of times they love to pull the center or pull the guard or something like that to get the linebackers moving in that direction. Because like we talk about on the show all the time, linebackers read that triangle. So if you get the guards pulling out, hopefully they pull that read at the same time. You could clean Ruben Bain's clock, or, clean somebody's clock with that pulling guard or center. So, that's definitely something I think they will mix in a lot this game.
So any players you wanted to highlight other than the 2 predominant edge rushers before we move on into the strategy portion? Because this is where I really want to get into the nitty gritty of like, what are we going to do?
So yeah, the other one that I've kind of got in my eye, he's been very boomer bust, and it's been their linebacker, Francisco Malgoa. Like, He's leads their team in tackles. He's got 5 for loss, 2 sacks. He's obviously a playmaker, but he's also been someone who's misses fair amount of tackles. I'm looking it up now. Yeah, he leads the Canes in 8 missed tackles. So there have been times where he can make plays that change the game, and there have been times where he's let plays get away from them. So depending on like what Malgoa shows up for that Canes front 7, there might be something to scheme up there if you're Jeff Brom. There might be something that makes your day a little bit longer.
Yeah, so let's take this chance now. Let's roll into a little bit of the strategy portion. So we've talked about a lot of the players. Matt, you've dove into a lot of the stats. Vince, when you hear a team, elite edge rushers on the defensive line, bit suspect in coverage, inconsistent tacklers on the defense, what does that say to you when you're trying to game plan for a team like this?
The edge rushers is what worries me, man, because it's going to be hard to drop back, like do your traditional drop backs. So, you're going to have to get creative and play action. You're going to have to potentially add in a tight end or running back into the protection, which is going to take away a receiver at the end of the day.
12 personnel. Sorry.
Even in 12 personnel, Matt, you're taking a receiver off the field and you only got one on now. You only have one receiver on the field now. It's like,
sorry, that's like a trigger for me. I'm like, you've got 2 really good tight ends.
Hey, I'm with you. Yeah, 12 personnel all day, but we'll have to see. I think that man, it's gonna be tough. The play action game is going to be hard to get going with those guys, and I would try and just attack the seams like I've been talking about. Bank on their secondary still being suspect at the same time. Isaac Brown's had a hell of the past 2 weeks. Why not just try and establish a run up the middle with him in some shape or fashion, or even have a draw play where these guys screen play, something like that. This could be something where the screen game's opened up big time for this offense this week.
Yeah, the only hesitation I have with trying to out physical a team like that is just the overwhelming amount of talent that they have on their roster. And usually high school kids, if they're a lineman and they're rated as very talented, they're either very fast or they're strong as hell.
Yeah,
and 68% of Miami's current roster is a 4-star prospect or higher. So,
exactly. You just win that first step, and if you can get your head across, and with some of these guys, I'm sure you could position block them in a way. I mean, Isaac Brown is good enough to where we've seen his vision. I mean, I highlighted it on the last episode we had, where if you give him a 3-way go, he can make the correct decision on which hole to hit and potentially score a touchdown on. So, I mean, yeah, I agree, though. I mean, anytime a D lineman is rated that high, it's usually because they're really strong or really fast.
So 10 hours of driving today gives a man a lot of time to think. And there were a couple of possibilities I was thinking of going into this matchup. Like, is this the game where we finally see a lot of that underneath passing scheme get implemented into the offense like we saw on that underneath drag that we picked up a late first down against Virginia? Do we see more of that mesh concept? Do we see more of those underneath? Something I would like to see to help aid the tackles out. Little bit of like designed moving pockets, get Shough rolling out to play side so that you can artificially create time by running him away from one of the edge rushers. Just, yeah, you're cutting off half the field, but Shough's a smart player. If something isn't there, he can get rid of it. And with the weaknesses Miami's had and the weapons we have at receiver like Ja'Cory Brooks, I anticipate we can make that work more times than not. So that was one of the big matchups, though. The edge rushers versus the offensive line. Miami's offensive line against our run defense. I'm also curious about. Like, our run defense stood pretty well against a very physical unit at Notre Dame that is probably the closest competition we're going to see represented to teams like Miami and Clemson. I think Miami probably has better running backs as a whole than just Jeremiah Love. But so does Miami's run game give you any worry?
I don't want to say no, just because like they have guys who have gone out there.
Like, go for $150 on us. You're sitting there like, shit.
Yeah, but like they don't scare me like a Jeremiah Love does, to be honest. I mean, they have more options, they have more versatility, I suppose, with like the different guys they have. But not any one of those single guys are as good as a Jeremiah Love or as good as a Brashard Smith. I mean, Brashard Smith's one of the more efficient and underrated backs in the nation, and he couldn't get anything going. Now, I mean, Kevin Jennings made up for that for having a damn good game. But and something that I do want to kind of bring up with like at least the defensive side of the ball and kind of defending a running quarterback. I mean, Cam Ward can use his legs. I wouldn't classify as like him as like a running quarterback, because any time that he has like picked up rushing yards, it's not been on designed quarterback runs. It's not been on reads, not been on zone reads, like not been on like RPOs, anything like that. They've almost all been on scrambles. So I think if you don't need to have like someone like kind of waiting back on the edge, waiting for him to pull back the ball. What you do though is like have someone, I don't want to say maybe have a permanent QB spy, because obviously you're taking an entire zone away from the field if you're doing that, but have the awareness and the cognizance to know that like if Cam Ward does drop back, and I mean he's very efficient at passing the ball. I mean, they've got the number one passing offense in college football. They're number one, period. But if like coverage sacks aren't really like a huge thing for Miami because he's so good at scrambling. So when he does look to scramble, they need to have the heads up awareness to see this happening. Like, okay, yeah, he's finally decided that he's not going to be able to make a play with his arm. He's going to go try and pick up the sticks or pick up a chunk with his legs. That's something that Louisville, and they did kind of work on this a little bit against Virginia in terms of like the awareness, and like as the game went on against Virginia, they did get a little bit better at containing Anthony Collinger with some of his designed runs and some of his scrambles and whatnot. But that's something that they need to continue to build on and carry into this Miami game, if you ask me.
honestly, I think it's a very comparable situation to what we have with Tyler Shough, which, granted, no disrespect to Emory Williams or Reef Poppenbarger, they're no Cam Ward. You don't want your star getting injured. So I think a lot of fans who like see Cam Ward, it's like, oh yeah, he's running at the ball. He's good at running the ball. They're probably going to design runs for him. Maybe 1 or 2 as a tendency breaker, but no, that's not what they like to do because frankly, he's too valuable to risk like that. Much like the frustrations we have with Shough sometimes where it's like, oh God, you're not bad at running the ball, but why do you go down so easy? And then it's like, oh wait, if you get hurt, we're probably screwed.
Yeah. The thing that worries me, Matt, that you mentioned the scrambling and stuff, is how connected these DBs are going to be to the wide receivers and like a man cut. I mean, in a man or a zone in a way. I mean, you're going to have to be very cognizant of where Cam Ward is scrambling in relation to your man in a zone or in zone and man coverage. You're going to have to be, obviously glued to your guy. And it's just going to be tough. That worries me for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at some of the advanced stats now. This is before taking into account sack yards, so it's not like his official total,
Right.
but he's picked up a net of 215 rushing yards. 211 of those have been from scrambles. So he's only had 4 yards on design runs. That is it. He is not a rushing quarterback. He's like he's an improviser. He makes plays happen when they break down. He's not someone that they're going to scheme up, QB power, QB run, or something of that. He's just very heads up, and he knows how to use his legs.
Yeah, so we've talked about it on previous episodes, on a lot of reaction episodes, like the edge rushers maintaining that discipline, get as deep as the deepest man in the backfield before penetrating, don't run too far upfield and give him an opportunity to get out. It's going to be another big test for our edge rushers because 1, that quarterback, damn good escape artist, and 2, that offensive line, whew, there's some beefy boys.
Right. This is a game where you look to Ashton Gelati and, you say you go eat. I mean, this is a game that, I'm sure him and a lot of our defensive line and, team as a whole has had circled, throughout the year, just based off the amount of eyes that are going to be on this game and the amount of people that are going to be watching it. This is a game that you can hang your hat on a lot of draft stock in a lot of ways.
You all worried about fatigue at all, or do you think just the atmosphere, like
what is fatigue? Army clothes.
So, assuming we keep it close, is that sort of like the atmosphere just kind of gets you through it? The fan base, the desperation of living and dying on every snap, wanting to get this win. Does that push us through this game? Or, I mean, we've played a lot of games in a row and we've still got a few more, including the short week.
What's going to push us through is not making mistakes. You're going to have to not make penalties. The stupid shit, the fumbles the fumble against Notre Dame, the penalties against Notre Dame, against SMU, having 12 people on the field, the mental errors that we've had, the muffed kicks, the mental errors in the back end on defense that we've had. You cannot have that stuff and expect to beat a team like Miami. I said at the Notre Dame week, you can't do that stuff and expect to beat somebody of that caliber. So it's just you're not going to have to play a perfect game by any means. They're going to gain yards. They'll score touchdowns. But you're not – you just can't – you're going to have to eliminate the big play on defense for sure. Like just eliminate this big play stuff.
And for the love of God, no more unsportsmanlike penalties from someone who –
lock in.
Yeah.
Lock in. It's like this is a game, like I said, a lot of eyes will be on this, and lock in. Send a statement.
Yep. Segued me almost too perfectly into the last little segment before we do the predictions, which was the keys to the game. Vince, you already gave us a pretty damn good preview. Matt, you want to hop in and add on?
No, I mean, like, one of my prevailing takeaways from the Virginia game was like, they did show a lot of improvements. There's no doubt about that. And they actually found a way to win in the fourth quarter, which is something they didn't do at Notre Dame and something they didn't do against SMU. So there are tangible, positive takeaways from that game. But by and large, it was still a game in which Louisville had a lot of self-inflicted penalties. It wasn't to the point where like it was the ultimate detriment to them.
No,
So
you can get away with stuff like that and beat Virginia if you want to be a mid-level ACC team. But we don't want to be a mid-level ACC team. We want to be one of the top 3, top 2 teams in the ACC. And I mean, you can't do shit like that.
Yeah, no. This is an opponent in a game to where you can't continue to shoot yourself in the foot and think you're going to have a chance to win at the end of the game. This is an opponent to where you have to, like you said, Vince, you don't have to play a perfect game, but this is a game where you've got to have the communication streamlined if you're the coaching staff. This is a game where you have to have, where if you're a player, you have to be locked in, you have to be focused, you have to play with purpose, play with intent, like all the coaching cliches, play for the guy next to you, make sure you're thinking about him and what your actions doing. Like, don't be the second guy that punches, because it's always that guy that gets flagged. we know this at this point, but yeah,
classic.
So like, I'm if they can build on some of those improvements from Virginia and take that into Miami, I give them a puncher's chance to win.
I mean, yeah, anytime Jeff against these top teams, I give every time a puncher's chance. He steps up against these teams. This
Especially
is what this is what everybody's always said about him. It's these types of games.
Yeah. So and especially in one sec, Keith. I know like my sentiment on Miami was like, I think they finally have enough talent to overcome Mario Cristobal, which is like the best way I could put it. And what's understand doesn't have to be fully explained, because like we kind of know what I'm talking about at this point. But like, they should be 0-2 in ACC play right now with a team that talented, and you still haven't looked super convincing against conference competition, and not even like the top ones you're going to play this season.
And it's not like this is Cam Newton-led Auburn, If you want to make that comparison, they had a lot of close games that year. Obviously, national champions. Miami's expecting to be a national title contender type deal, or they're trying to make that, push for that. That's not that type of team. Go ahead, Keith.
So one of the keys to the game that you all didn't mention, and you mentioned a lot of the things that the team can control: discipline, understanding assignments, execution, staying into the game. One of the things the team can't directly control: the fans. We got to sell out. We got to make this a hostile place to play. Now, I'm not saying go out and harass other teams' fans, but I get in your seats. And when we're on defense, I don't care if it's 2nd and 7 in the first quarter or 4th and 3 with 2 minutes left in the game. Go nuts. Make it impossible for them to communicate. Make them waste timeouts throughout the course of the game. Mario Cristobal is capable of blundering away a game with poor game management. Force them to make those mistakes. And that lies in the hands with us, the fans. We have the power to make an impact on this game, because this is
fired up. I'm juiced right now.
This is a damn talented Miami team, and we need every single one of the 60,000 people in this stadium giving their all for the Ville to get us a win.
I promise you, from experience, being on that field, whenever it's packed and it's as loud as it can be, you feel every bit of it. And I mean, to that the point where go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say that stadium pulse meter better be filled all the way.
Yes. I mean, like there were times whenever I was around where you couldn't even have the conversation we're having right now. It is so loud. I mean, I've been on a headset where I've been trying to understand what's coming from a box, where I have to still earmuff it, push everything together, tell people to be quiet, and try and get a play in because everybody's so loud. It's capable for sure, bro.
Yeah, make them rely on having to sign plays in as opposed to trying to use helmet comms. Like the Notre Dame game last year.
They're great people.
The Notre Dame game last year, that atmosphere was electric. We're going to need it again if we want to have a shot in this game, because this is a damn good opponent, but this is a damn good team that I want to believe can overcome their flaws. So, but if they're going to do it, they're going to need some help. So
Go ahead
Card
and roll
Nation,
your prediction off,
bring your
Keith,
lattice.
if that's where you were getting at. It seemed like you were going for it right there. Like
We're
you were
rolling
it up.
It's a perfect segue into the prediction segment.
Right.
With that, rolling into the prediction segment, I am a strong believer in talent, and Miami has a lot of it.
Wait, what's the line? Set the standard, or
as of
standard.
4.5.
As of the recording starting, I was able to find the spread at 4.5 at a certain sports book that, until they pay us money, I won't mention. So 4.5 is what we're setting the line at. We got the pick from Jacob Lane earlier in the week. He even gave it a little tease on the Virginia recap episode. He's taken the Canes at 4.5, giving up 4.5. And I'm going to be doing a significant emotional hedge and doing the same. I'm taking the Canes minus 4.5. I believe in the talent. The O-line concerns really, really worry me. The play calling creativity that just hasn't been there this season, and that scares me. So I'm taking the U, and I will be doing my damnedest to make that pick wrong in the stands on Saturday.
Go ahead, Matt.
So everything that I've researched and we've talked about, like everything just points to like Miami should win this game, especially when you can take into account like how Louisville has certainly looked imperfect, and there are some areas that are a little bit more disappointing than what we thought they were going to be. Some players that weren't going to be like as efficient, but Miami has not been super convincing defensively in the slightest the last couple games. Like they have been a problem, and not a good problem. Like I've been like an OG problem. Like they've been bad the last couple weeks, and I know like this is like a gut feeling type of thing. Like I know like my head and all the research tells me that like it should be Miami, like I said, but there is something about Jeff Brom always does come up for those big games, and it's at home. Miami has certainly looked vulnerable. Louisville certainly has a strength in their passing game that can exploit that very suspect secondary. So I'm hoping I don't regret this pick. But not only am I picking Louisville to cover, I think they win 35-34.
Cards money line coming from Matt.
Let's go.
He gets the points for the sake of the game, but I'll put the money line in our notes just so you can stun on us.
Right, yeah.
Man, if this game was at Miami, I would feel a whole hell of a lot different about it. And the fact that it is a sellout at L&N Stadium has me feeling a lot different about it. After Matt's stats and everything that you all have brought to the table, I feel a lot different about it. I think my answer has changed probably multiple times within this show. I'm still pondering, but because like Matt, I don't want to be made a fool, and I'm already down. But I can't go against my Trinity brethren in big-time games. I can't. I cannot. So I'm definitely taking the Cards for obviously all the same reasons Matt said. Their secondary and defense has been suspect. And, man, I've been harping on Cam Ward for this long about him. I mean, I've never been in a Miami locker room. I've never met Cam Ward a day in my life. But I'm going off one video of him and Shadur Sanders, and Shadur Sanders seems like an annoying dude himself. So he could have been annoyed, if I'm honest, being honest there. But, I mean, potentially getting his head is where I'm getting at with that. He could get into now I've been on the team with Lamar, and a lot of times with Lamar, he would be trying to do too much himself and wouldn't play within the offense and things like that. Now, we had a lot of success, obviously, on those teams, but if we can find a way to make Cam Ward uncomfortable, make him play outside of his game, outside of the playbook, me ball, try and do too much type deal, I feel pretty good. And hopefully we can be flooding the field like we have been the past, 3 years? I think we've had a field flood 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Bright and early, nooner. I'd love an 8 o'clock kickoff every once in a while, but hey, I'm here for another nooner.
Come ready. Get that coffee, get that energy drink in you early because we're going to need the juice if we're going to come away with those Schnellenberger.
I think I'm going blue. I think I'm going blue collar mimosa this weekend.
My man.
Which I get half OJ and half Red Bull. You might throw a little splash of vodka in there.
You can't drink all day if you don't start early.
Oh, we'll start at an appropriate time. It's alumni weekend too, guys. Homecoming, everything. I mean, that's exciting. As I said, he's got some people staying at the house. I'm curious who people is. So anxious to see which guys are coming in town.
All right. Well, we got a split jury on the predictions. Me and Jacob, we are the ones of ye of little faith, and we deserve all of your shame if Louisville can come back and get a victory, which I am hoping in my heart of hearts that we come away with. Vince and Matt, they're riding with the hometown heroes, your boys. Give your all to make them the right picks and make me a fool that has to do combine drills.
God, I'm so I think about that more times than you all probably realize. I'm like, that was late last night. Actually, I was like, man, 5-10-5. Like, I gotta go because everybody's gonna make fun of me if I don't. But if I go full speed, I'm likely gonna blow my knee out. Like 100%, I will plant and blow my knee out.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking I was okay at 3-cone back in the day, but I'm gonna have to sandbag it. Like I'd rather look slow than get injured on film. So
see, the things I would feel good about bench press. And I think I could get I could get at least a 5.1 40, at least at this point. I mean, which isn't fast at all in all reality.
I haven't touched a weight since 2015. So no, bench press would not be my friend. Like I can get 20 reps of the bar.
Now, vertical would be the funny thing for all of us.
Vertical 100%.
And 40-yard dash will be 40 will be comedy as well. Like I just said, I mean, like the potential of a hamstring getting popped is kind of comical.
I think I could run a respectable 40. I didn't say good one, but
what do you think? But throw a number out there, Matt. Throw a dart. What do you think your number 40 would be?
5.5.
5.5.
I'm just shooting for sub 6. I accept
sub 6. You play offensive line though, Keith. That's such an offensive line answer for a 40-yard dash question.
Well, see, you'll have to dig deep in the files, but I was only like 250, 260 coming out of high school. Yeah, exactly. I was at like a 4.9, 5 flat coming out of high school. So it's just I
was around the same. I mean, it's never fun whenever, we're doing our NFL combine testing at the stadium when you're in college and everybody's running the 40s and tights and you're just the white guy looking around. You're like, oh man, this is gonna be a terrible white walk on. You're like, man, this is gonna be terrible. And I go out there, run like a 5.3 and Jair's running like a 4.3. Granted, all this stuff's on track too, so it's like insanely fast times.
Oh, who's the Texas high school kid? I'm like, you're disparaging our Caucasian brethren. We can be fast too.
That is true. I guess just mainly me.
Right.
I mean,
well, with the looming threat of combine drills starting to become ever more real, we're going to go ahead and conclude this episode. Thanks again to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. That's Matt McGavic. That's Vince Lococo. I'm producer Keith. Smash that subscribe button, tickle that like button, hop in the comments, tell us who's being fools on the prediction side and what your predictions are for the game. And as always, go Cards. Preview episode coming up. Me, Vince Lococo, Matt McGavic. We're going to die. God damn it. Retake. I said McGavic.
Oh, you did it on accident? I thought that was real.
No, like every time I say your name first, I think I just put the L there. Matt McGavic, Vince Lococo. I think I just got to say Matt. I think I just got to say Matt's name first.